freaky friends. This is Colleen.
And this is Margaret.
And we're the Cousins Weird. Hi, we're back. Did you miss us?
Yeah, I missed us.
I missed us too.
I started school and it's been busy and I've had homework. So, the first week I wasn't prepared. Then Colleen suggested that she do the main episodes while I'm in school and I do the terrible trends because they're a lot easier and there's a lot less to them. And that's good with me if it's good with her. I hate putting the burden on her, but Well,
I have more time than you do.
Yeah, and then she was out of town.
Yeah, then I was out of town. And then also I got sick and I wasn't feeling good. So I wasn't. And the episode I just decided to do after I told Mark, after I had the terrible trends done. And I'm like, oh, I can do it. And then, of course, I pick an episode that there's no way I could get done in 2 days. I needed over a week to do this one because it's a big one.
She said 14 pages of
I have 14
notes.
pages of typed notes for this episode. So this is the longest one I've ever done. And it has a lot of information in it and a lot of names that are exactly the same, which is confusing but thankfully they're last, but their first names are all the same, all these people. So this is a mystery.
Cool.
And you know it.
I have a funny thing that Ruby said on the way here. I brought my kids with me today.
Yeah.
But they're upstairs playing with Colleen's mom, Aunt Donna. And we're on Brookside Drive, which is very hilly. And it goes up and down and up and down. And then Evie was saying, I think I'd like to go on a roller coaster because this is a lot of fun. And Ruby goes, I don't think I would like it because I get nauseous.
I get nauseous.
At times. She goes, I get nauseous at times. She's 7, so she read that somewhere.
Right. Nauseous.
Nauseous, because it's nauseating.
Yeah.
It's nauseous.
I like it.
Rupert and I are looking at her like, I get nauseous too, Ruby.
Yeah, she's her mother's daughter.
She totally is.
She'll be puking
100%.
on everything like you did.
100%. And she's the one that's like, I feel like I'm going to all over the bed. I'm like, oh,
That's
God.
what Margaret used to do. I'm going to puke. And then she would.
And then I would.
And if you said puke to her, she would.
And Colleen's older brothers, this was their favorite pastime, was to
tell you
look
you
at
look
me
sick.
and say, how are you feeling, Margaret? I feel fine. Are you sure? Because you look like you might feel sick. No, I'm fine. And they're like, are you sure? Because you kind of look like you're going to puke. And then I would literally puke. Like this, it was subliminally in my brain.
They're mean.
And then I'm like, oh God, I do have to puke. Just thinking about puke would make me puke. That's how pukey I was as a child.
Your kids probably toughened you up a little bit.
Oh yeah. I'm not as bad as I was, but I think a lot of it too is if I'm driving, I don't get car sick, and I have to sit in the front.
Yeah.
If I sit in the back, I'm done. And I'm so nervous. I had to get my ankle surgery done. At the end of June in Syracuse, which means I'm going to be under anesthesia, right? And then I'm going to have to they're going to wait for me to wake up. And then I'm going to have to drive home in the back of the car because I'm going to have, and I'll have a huge thing on my foot.
And you had just been
And then I'll have to go back a week later for them to check it again. And I'm like, this is going to suck.
You have to take some Dramamine.
So bad. I'm going to have to. It just knock me out. And honestly, our Meclizine works better. I'm like, then Meclizine only works because it makes you go to sleep.
Right, it knocks you out. So
you're not nauseous because you're sleeping.
Right. And then you wake up and
it's fine.
Fine.
It's fine. And then you just feel like you've been on drugs because you've been on drugs. It's that drugged, I remember when we used to go to Enchanted Forest, I'd take it before we'd leave. And then we'd get there and I'd be like a freaking zombie all day. I'd be like, what's going on? Where am I? What's going on? I'd have no memories of the first hour. It was awful.
Was it like when we were at the cabin the first year and you partook in...
Yes. It was awful.
A little puff outside.
I was like,
Margaret,
a little.
Margaret, that's not enough.
And then I was like, oh my God. I just sit down and Callie's trying to rock. I'm like, please don't swing this.
You're in a rocking thing.
I felt like somebody put a fishbowl over my head.
Yeah.
And I'm walking around and I'm trying to take steps and I'm
missing.
Walking like an idiot.
She's like, I gotta go lay down.
And I'm trying to walk upstairs. I'm like, this is the worst ever. The worst. I used to be able to do stuff like that in my youth.
Well, that was some strong stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
It's different than...
But I'm totally an adult. I could have said, no, I'm fine.
No, and I was like, Margaret, take a better puff than that. I'm so mean. Why did I tell you?
Yeah.
I didn't know you were actually going to
It was a big one.
And you already had 2 little hits.
Yeah.
So.
It was too much.
It was too much. I can't do a lot either. I'm like a
More
one
than
puff
much.
person. I can't handle. I'm a wimp. And all that stuff's legal in our state, so we can talk about it freely.
Like, thinking back on my college experience, I went to art college, so we'll just leave that there. Draw your own conclusions. Anyway, there was the last time that I was at school that I smoked pot. I remember I smoked a lot. I was with my friends. I had gotten in a fight with my main group of friends. Like I was mad at them and I wasn't talking to them. And I was with my new friends who were very much more into the pot smoking. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to after we watched, back then in the 90s, it was like, you smoke pot and you watch Perry Farrell's The Gift. That was what you did. I've never seen that movie not stoned. I probably would be like, what? I don't think it's not much different. When you're watching it, you think you're stoned.
Right,
it's one of those movies. Anyway, I remember going back to my room and making something to eat. I made macaroni and cheese, and the next thing I know, it's the morning. Like, I remember eating some, and then I'm like, I'll just leave them on the stove with a lid on it. And I woke up the next day, the pan's next to me empty, and there's a bunch of I did a bunch of stuff that I have no memories of, and I'm like, okay, I don't think I can do that again.
You're like, what did I do?
Well, it was right before I moved out into my new apartment,
right?
And I'm like in my room, and I'm like, I was sleeping on the floor because my bed was at my new place, but was late, and it was like I was in between, like I was moving out,
right? So
I just put a blanket on the floor and slept on the floor, and I'm just like,
good thing you were stoned.
Yeah. Had a great night's sleep.
Fantastic.
Woke up, rug print on my cheek because I wasn't even all the way on the blanket. It was like one of those
you passed out.
What
literally.
The hell? Like, I'm just nowadays it's like at least I was by myself. I wouldn't wake up with some random person with me.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, ooh, that would have been real strange.
Oh goodness.
Anyway, that's enough of my youthful transgressions. It's about as bad as it got, you know what I mean?
Right.
Which is.
I think my worst were just drinking far too much and passing out and vomiting everywhere.
I've done that too.
Yeah, those were my worst.
Honestly, things. LSD, totally different experience.
I don't want you to try it.
It was fun.
I can't handle the thought. I think it's because I can't do anything that will make me trip in any way. Because I have the whole derealization thing that happens with my anxiety that makes me feel like...
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
And I don't even want to think about ever losing in touch with reality.
But I never took it enough to have, my friends that took it, we took it all at the same time. And we had a handler. One of our good friends was the one who was sober. Which this was the 90s. It was that was unheard of back then. You're lucky if somebody was a DD.
Right.
But, it was just, one of those, it was awesome. It was so much fun. But then, some of my friends kept doing it, and then they're like, oh, yeah, I had a bad trip. I'm like, well, probably because you took 4 hits of acid, you idiot. Why would you take that much?
I just remember one of our friends took it at the coffee shop we used to hang out at, and he thought that the building across the street was melting, and it was going to come into the shop, and he took off running, screaming, and I was like, I'll never do that. I never want to think a building's melting.
He probably took too much. The trick with stuff like that is you don't want to do it very frequently.
It was the one that took horse tranquilizers and everything else, so he took too much, yes.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I have a sheep. I can just take half of it.
Yeah, he took too much. But that freaked me out. Seeing his freak out freaked me out enough to never want to ever experience something like that.
I spent 2 hours sitting on the bathroom floor staring at the rug.
Oh, that's a good time.
It was. And the light. And the rug had a thing that was spraying off of it, and I just stared at that for 2 hours. My friend's like, Margaret stared at the rug for 2 hours. I'm like,
I did.
I remember. It was lots of colors. And it's like a kaleidoscope.
See, I can't even handle the thought. That would.
Oh my God, it was so
I can't handle it.
You look at lights, and it was trails and sparkles, and
it would make me feel like I was losing touch with reality, and my brain will.
And it's so
freak
funny.
out.
I handled that better than I handled pot.
Isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm. Most people, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
I was sometimes, if I smoke too much pot, I'm like, I don't.
Oh, I can't smoke too
and
much.
And it's that weird.
There's a line.
There's
it's good or it's not.
Or it feels like nothing. Or it's too much.
You can't find.
I can't find the middle. Like,
I'm like, it's good until it's not good, and then I don't like it anymore. So I just one puff.
See, like with alcohol, I know
something.
like my limit is 2.
Right.
And I gotta do it slow.
Right.
So like me, I'm like, if I make a mixed drink, it's like half a shot.
Maybe edibles would be good for you. Just a little bite, eat it, and then see what happens.
I probably would do better that way.
Yeah.
I'll have to do it sometime.
Yeah.
We'll get together.
They have these things called buzz shots. I've been looking at them. They're just these little, they're really low dose. They're like 2.5 milligrams, and they have CBD in them. And you make cocktails with it without alcohol. So it gives you that relaxing, chill feeling without a hangover or the paranoia side.
I think a lot of it is I have vertigo and things that can like, and
I hate that feeling.
That's what it did. Is it like made my vertigo worse, and alcohol can do it too.
Yeah.
And that's why I have to be real careful.
So I'm thinking these buzz shots, I might get some and like try it because I'm like, that's a low dose. And drinking just makes you dehydrated and you feel like crap. I don't want to feel like crap.
We've been talking a long time about pot and stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you do to relax? No, just kidding. Okay, let's get on with the show, shall we? Okay, so today, am I doing that right? Oh, I did. Today we're talking about the Dyatlov incident.
Oh, Dyatlov Pass.
Yes.
I'm familiar. I've
the
listened
Dyatlov
to
Pass.
a few podcasts, and I've watched some stuff on TV. It's fascinating.
It is fascinating
terrifying.
and horrifying and
terrifying.
And what kind of made me want to do it, because I was looking up just something to do, and I found this one thing I'm going to talk about is a theory they have about sound. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is interesting. Like, I should read about this. And I was reading about it and I came across this. Well, some of this kind of ties into do you watch True Detective?
I've watched all the first 2 seasons. The 3rd season I wasn't interested in.
Okay.
And the new season I've heard has like Jodie Foster in it, right?
It's so good.
I need to watch it.
It loosely has bits of this story in it.
I just binge watched Capote versus the Swans, The Feud on Hulu.
Oh.
So good. So good.
Well, I'm deep into
if you can get
True
past
Detective and
Truman Capote's voice.
Yeah.
You're good. But it has like so many famous women in it.
Oh, cool.
They're all older and it's kind of cool because it's
I'm
like
binging
socialites.
Well, we're doing True Detective, and then we started Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the TV show, as Daniel Glover in it, and the girl from Pen 15, the TV show. It's so good. It's funny. It's cute. It's action-packed. It's adorable. I love it. I think it's on Netflix. I can't remember, but it's really good. Mr. and Mrs. Smith. It's way better than the movie.
Wait, Daniel Glover, what was he in?
He was in Community. He's a rapper. Also. He's Donald Glover's son. He's adorable.
I think I almost can picture his face.
I can't remember what his rap name is, though. I just remember his real name.
Okay.
Anyway, it's good. Anyway, the point of TV show talk was bits of this are tied into this new True Detective season, just very loosely pieces of it, okay? And when I was like, what is this? This is familiar to something. I kept on thinking, something about this is familiar. And then when I was reading about the sound and it tied into the Dyatlov Pass incident, I was like, that's what the True Detective stuff is reminding me of. So I'm like, the universe is telling me to cover this. And there's lots of Uris. Lots of Uris.
Common
Russian
name.
It's Russian. It's in the Soviet Union.
It's like John.
Where it takes place.
Is it Yuri? Like they're version of John?
And there's lots of names, and I'm apologizing in advance because I don't want to be disrespectful to any of the people I'm reading, but I can't say English words correctly. We all know this. So the odds of me doing these justice are really, really slim. So we're just going to go with it.
We can abbreviate and make them a little easier for you.
Yeah, I'll just try my best.
Yes.
I try my best.
They probably all start with the same letter. So can't you call them Yuri S when they all have a last name that begins with S?
They all have different last name, I think, letters in their last name,
okay,
but I'm not going to remember whose first name I have a lot of last names after the first introduction because their names are all Yuri, basically. So I was like, I'm just going to call about their last name.
Just make it a little more easier.
Yeah.
Last name, which you can't pronounce.
But I can't pronounce. We'll figure it out. So this all takes place back in 1959. So it was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. And it's been a mystery really ever since. So in January of 1959, Igor Dyatlov, a 23-year-old college student from the Ural Polytechnical Institute set out.
He was only 23.
He was 23 years old.
God.
He sets out on this insane expedition. He has this idea. I want to do this expedition to conquer Mount. That is not what the mountain is. I don't know why it's spelled totally wrong. Hold on, now I gotta look that up. Oh, it was spelled right. O'Torton. I thought it was right the whole time. Okay. Let's rewind, shall we? Okay. So, what am I saying? Okay. So Igor is a 23-year-old college student from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, and he wants to do this really crazy expedition to conquer Mount O'Torton in the northern Ural Mountains of Soviet Union.
Were they trying to get certified for extreme mountain something?
They everyone was they wanted to do this because no other Russian had done it before.
Okay.
So they are all seasoned, they have done these winter extreme expeditions, but this may be the biggest one they have ever done.
All right.
So he wasn't alone in his adventure. He brought along a crew of fellow classmates. He had a close friend, Gregory. Okay, here we go. This is where it starts to get hard to say words. Krivonishchenko. No. Krivanishchenko. Krivanishchenko. Gregory Krivanishchenko, who happened to be an engineer at the...
Krovnishkin. I think it... Whatever.
It's difficult to say, but Gregory...
That's a long last name, and there's a lot of...
No, his name's not even Gregory, it's Georgie.
There's 4 or 5
consonants
in a row.
So his name's Georgie, not even Gregory, so I even said his first name wrong. Georgie Krivanishchenko, which is probably wrong. I'm very sorry. He was an engineer at the Mayak nuclear complex. There were some recent graduates of the institute: Rusten Slobodin, Nikolai Thibault Brignoles. Thibault Brignoles. He has a hyphenated last name. Along with 2 other classmates, Yuri Yudin, Yuri Doroshenko, Alexander Kolvatov. The youngest member was Lyuda Dubinina. Yeah, Lyuda Dubinina. And she was just 20. She was the youngest one. But every one of them have been on winter extreme expeditions. This just happened to be the biggest one because no other Russian at the time had made this trek as far as they knew. So before their journey, they had to pitch this trip to the UPI Sports Club, which is anyone doing extreme mountain climbing, things like that. They had to get approved to do it. They had to register it for safety reasons, which makes sense. So before the journey...
this is in the cold. This is communist USSR.
This is during, Cold War
Russia. This isn't Russia. They were still the USSR.
Yes.
Right.
United. So this is before the wall came down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that didn't happen until the 80s.
Right. So Igor, he pitched this 13-day cross-country ski expedition. And we say cross-country, they're going up mountains. It's not, we say, it's not like a little jaunt on a flat cross-country trail. This is extreme stuff with the sports club. And they approved it, giving them the green light to do this trip. And which would look good. And when we think about Russia at all, in general, they want to look good, right, to the world. So it would look good if this group of Russian students did this trip. So they were like, yeah, let's do it. So it was going to take them 16 days. It was 350 miles through the ancestral lands of the Mansi people.
50 miles up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in 16 days?
Yeah.
That does not seem like enough time.
So it was 350, and they were going through ancestral lands of the Mansi people, who are indigenous people that live in the Soviet Union. No Russian had done this route before. So the challenges weren't just the crazy terrain of going uphill, basically up these mountains. They're climbing mountains on skis in the middle of winter in January in Russia.
Yeah. So
that wasn't the worst part wasn't the terrain. It was the extreme cold and the horrible weather and snow. It's going to get in freezing temperatures are going to happen. They have to be very prepared. But they were trained. They knew what they were doing. It was a group of smart, seasoned skiers, hikers, extreme sports people. And so, they were like, yeah, you can do that. You'll be fine. Just before they set off, Semyon Zolotaryov, he was a 37-year-old veteran. He was added by the Ural Polytechnical Institute. So the institute was like, here, take this guy with you too. He's got some experience. He's older. He was older than everyone else. We want him to go. So January 23rd, the crew kicked off their journey in Sverdlovsk, a region of West Central Russia. So they're in West Central Russia. Now, they had to take a train, and they didn't want to pay for everyone to be on the train, so some of them hid under seats to avoid paying the ticket price.
Oh my god! I didn't know that. That's funny.
Yeah, they found out in the journals that because they all had their own personal journals, and then one of the members of the expedition had one for the group itself, and they did find their journals in this, and that was one of the things, and I just thought that was like funny. Like they were like, we're gonna hide, so they hid under seats.
Such a student thing to do.
Yeah. It was a 2-day train ride, mind you. They're hiding under seats.
Jeez.
They hit Ivdel, a remote town, which was actually a prison camp at the time. From Ivdel, the trip gets a little crazy because they go from a bus ride to hitching a lift on a logging truck, then a horse-drawn sleigh later, and they reach the abandoned logging camp for an overnight stay. So they rode, it was like planes, trains, and automobiles. So they were on everything, and they were so remote that they had to take a sleigh ride to the location where they're going to just start.
Like dog sleds? Or
a horse-drawn sleigh.
Oh, geez.
Horse-drawn sleigh.
That's even like...
Yeah.
That's crazy.
They're way back in the middle of nowhere. Now, Yuri Yurdin, one of the classmates that was on the trip, has a sciatica flare. And he's like, I can't do this trip with my back like this. And he's like, I have to head back before the expedition starts.
For someone in their 20s to have sciatica. Already.
I know. It's probably from all these extreme winter trips they're going on. Now, little did Yuri know, one of the Yuris, Yuri Yurdin, that sciatica flare, that health problem he had actually saved his life. Because he probably wouldn't have lived.
Yeah.
Because, spoiler alert, no one does.
They all die.
They all die. It's really sad. So on January 28th, so on the 23rd, it took him from the 23rd to the 28th to get to the spot where they're going to start. So 5 days. 1 day sleeping, but 4 days traveling just to get to this remote area to start. The remaining 9 members geared up and they are ready to face the challenge of this expedition. They're ready to go. As we approach February 12th, the sports club and the family members are anxiously waiting the expedition team to make word with them. They're like, okay, we can't wait to hear from them. They know that they made it to the safe spot because the original plan was that the team would reach a village of Vizha by the 12th of February, notify the club that their safe arrival by telegram, who would notify their families. The 12th came and went, and they didn't hear anything. Now, Dyatlov have said that, we're going to be in extreme situations in weather. Don't freak out if you don't hear from us on the 12th, because weather, anything could happen. We might be delayed. So they were like, okay, we're nervous, but he said maybe it wouldn't be exactly the 12th. So, but a couple days turned into a week, and without any communication, obviously the family are freaking out a little bit. So they start contacting people saying, hey, we need to find where are they? So by the 20th, it's escalated to the point where we know that something has to happen. So a search party was organized of student volunteers of the school that they went to, military personnel, the Manzi hunters, who that's their land. They are really, they know where everything is. They experienced.
Because they have to have experienced people looking for them, because they're like not an easy place to find.
No, exactly. So the Manzi hunters are the best people to have, really, because it's their land that they're on. Prison guards who are that were in that camp that they were in, and then military, and then local police. So the mission was to trace where are they? Like, we got to save them. It's actually a rescue mission. Exactly. On the 25th, so at 5 days of searching, volunteers finally stumble across ski tracks leading to a tent situated above a tree line in the remote mountain known as Kholat Syakhl, which the Manji by the Manzis, it's a Manzis language, means dead mountain.
Nice.
So that's just
you
ominous.
Don't camp at a place called Dead Mountain.
You don't want to do that.
You just don't. It's not a good idea.
It's ominous. It's foreboding.
It's probably named that for a reason.
Yes.
No.
Now, the scene where they find the tent is creepy. As just finding the tent is creepy, okay? It's collapsed and covered in snow. But inside, when they get inside, they find the members' personal items are neatly arranged. Boots, clothes, equipment are all in order, all folded nicely. And there's food out, like they were about to eat. And the tent appears that has been cut from the inside as if they needed to get out quick. So that's creepy. Mm-hmm. The decision to camp on... Now, another weird thing was where they decided to camp. Because the decision to camp on the slope of a mountain instead of a pass that was less than a mile away caused confusion to the people finding them. Like, why would they do this here?
People were supposed to know what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing, right. So... When they read the journals, actually the journals, and there were cameras and journals that gave a lot of insight to the trip and things that were happening. They feel like they got off course due to a snowstorm the day before, leading to winds up to 65 miles an hour and temperatures as low as minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit.
Eek.
Yeah. So they were in that horrible, they couldn't see.
And they did this because they thought it was fun.
Yeah, it was a good time for them.
Yeah, no
None of that. I try not to go outside when it's like under
the other day
40.
I left the house and it was 12 degrees. I thought I was gonna die.
My nose hairs freeze. I don't want to be a part of that.
Like that.
I don't put skis on my feet, first of all. I don't like to cross country ski.
Oh, I always liked it.
My dad loved it. I hated it. He'd take me and I wanted to like it for him because my daddy was the best. But I hated every second of it because you had to have perfect conditions for it to be fun.
I hate
if it sticks to your
skis. It's the worst. You have to like look and there's like 2 inches
it's
of snow
like
stuck on the
maybe
bottom.
once a year you get those good conditions where it was fun. Every other time I hated it. So they're in this freezing cold. They purposely went and they're going uphill on cross country skis. That's my nightmare.
Yes.
None of that sounds fun to me. I love the outdoors. I love hiking. I love being in the woods, but I want it to be where my nose hairs don't freeze when I do it. Okay. So as they ventured beyond the tent, so they're like this, they must have got off course. They got off course. They were really close to where they could be, where it would be safe, but they couldn't tell where they were because they got off course because of the weather. So
it was storming. So
yeah, so they pitched a tent and they did it in a way that was the safest way for the area that they were in. It was done, but at first they were like, why would they have done this? Their path to where they could be safe is right, like literally within a mile of where they were. And then they read the journals and thought, okay, well, here's the answer to that question. So they venture beyond the tent, the students, volunteers, and they discover footprints left, and they could tell about 8 to 9 people, which would account for all people in this tent. One of the things that really is noticeable and like creepy and weird is the fact that the lack of footwear in these prints. The print suggests bare or socked feet. So there's no one put. Well, actually, one of them appears to have one boot on in the footprints. One boot. But the rest are bare or socked.
I would have to be terrified to run out of a tent in the middle of the snow in the mountain without putting shoes on.
Exactly. And not to go out.
You even tie them, just shove them on your feet.
And the fact that you had to cut yourself out instead of just going out the tent in the freezing cold, knowing that
1959, did tents have like tie flaps?
Probably tie flaps.
Zippers on.
I don't know. I should look that up.
Yeah, because like, if it was a tie flap and they cut themselves, what the fuck? What the actual fuck?
And knowing that, like, okay, first of all, it's freezing cold. We're experienced people. We know that going out here without our clothes on is not a good idea. Without our shoes on. But we're destroying our tent.
Wearing sneakers and not boots in the winter is stupid.
Yeah. They're barefoot or sock footed.
No, your toes. Goodbye, toes.
Yeah.
Within the first couple minutes, your toes are frosted
in below 30-degree weather, which was what they were experiencing.
It would take minutes for their toes to die.
Yeah.
I like my toes.
So can you imagine what would have caused that?
Right.
That's the question. So this trail leads to into the woods and over a mile from the campsite. The big question, obviously, like we said, is what compelled a group of skiers who have experience and knowledge to slice open their tent and ruin their tent, basically, and go out into sub-zero temperatures without boots or any of their gear with them. Nothing with them. Their gear is arranged. Their ski poles are up straight. Like, there's no... They didn't even try to go out the the flaps of the tent. Like, they immediately went straight out the side. So they continue searching because they followed the footsteps. They hadn't found anyone. The following day, finally, a discovery is made beneath a cedar tree at the forest edge. The body of, I'm going to say these wrong, Georgie, the one with a really long last name. I'll say his first name, Georgie, and the student Doroshenko were found. They were wearing only their underwear and surrounded by what was a fire, a remnant of a fire. They noticed that the nearby tree had broken branches roughly 10 feet above it, and shreds of their clothing and skin were found on the trunk of the tree. So they're out there practically naked, trying to survive by a fire, obviously. Someone tried to climb a tree, and their skin was pulled off and parts of their underwear, I'm assuming, because remnants of clothing.
That the tree's frozen and barky,
and if you have no pants on, and you're trying to get back down,
it's either going to scrape your skin off or freeze your skin off.
Exactly.
Or probably both.
Yeah, because you're, And this was a mile away from their tent.
Even in the summer, when I go camping, I don't sleep with just a shirt. I put complete clothes on.
Because you never know when a bear's going to come and eat you. You gotta run.
Exactly. You think these people would, why are you sleeping in just your underwear?
I'm wondering if that was a way to, like, dry their clothes out. I don't know. I don't know why they were naked. Maybe they were having fun.
Maybe. Then they would not have underwear.
Well, they hadn't got to that part yet.
Oh, maybe. Who knows?
Or that's how maybe we don't... I mean, there could be extreme weather situations.
Well, maybe it's because they only had so many pairs of clothes to wear. Maybe it was just like they didn't want them to get too crusty, or they were crusty and they didn't want to sleep in their crusty clothes.
Right, and they had a way of heating their tent, too. So it was probably warm in the tent. So maybe it got too warm where they had to take off more layers, but they didn't want to... Can't really temper control
I would
out.
be sleeping on top of that sleeping bag, so I didn't have to take my clothes off.
I know, right?
A tent full of a bunch of people.
And who knows how many clothes did they have with them? Were they drying both sets of clothes? I don't know the reason why these people were naked.
Weird.
They were naked. Practically.
Down under your skivvies.
Yes. So this is a mile away from the tent. The medical examiner report is detailed and gross. Georgie exhibited blackened fingers. Obviously, he was frostbitten, along with third-degree burns on his shin and foot. Inside his mouth, a chunk of his flesh that he had bitten off his own hand on his right hand. So he had his own flesh in his mouth when he died. Like, did he die instantly when he bit his hand? Like, was he, like, what the frig happened?
Did they have his cause of death?
Well, we'll tell you in a minute.
Okay.
Doroshenko had burned hair on the side of the head and charred socks. His complexion was described as brown-purple, with gray foam seeping from his right cheek and gray liquid from his mouth. Which, when you're frozen outside, I suppose weird things happen like that. Like, I can't imagine what
was it like
your
that
body...
when they found him or when he thawed out?
It said when they... Well, you know what? Good question. I don't know. It was seeping from his right... I think when they found him, he must have been frozen that way. When he started to thaw out, it was like more visible. I don't know. Later on, Dyatlov and Kolmogorova are found as if it appeared as they were trying to retrace their steps back, get to the tent. They were headed up a hill towards the tent.
I thought of something. These guys didn't have clothes on. How the hell did they make a fire with no clothes and nothing?
Well, there's a theory behind it.
Oh, okay.
There's a theory behind it that the reason why the tree was climbed was to get branches that were higher up that would have been better for them.
They're like Boy Scouting it with the sticks rubbing together.
Yeah, trying to find branches that were not frozen. Also that they may have had some clothes on and they used the clothes to start the fire. You'll hear as it goes on, some did have some clothes with them. They just happened to just be in their underwear and socks. They did not have, none of them, other than one, got one boot on before they got out. So Dyatlov and Kolmogorova are found up a trail, and it seemed like they were trying to get back to the tent. They were headed up a hill towards the tent. Evidence of bruising, scratching, or cuts are present on them. And then later on that day, the next day, they found Slobodin, close proximity to the other two, appearing as if they're trying to get back to the tent.
There were two women on the team, right?
Yes. The Slobodin was female, I believe, and she was wearing a sock on one foot and a boot on the other. And they had a mild skull fracture. So, weird scrapes, bruising, weird I mean, I get the burns on people because they're probably trying to warm up.
But, the scrapes and bruising makes sense, too. If they were panicked and running and getting their way out of a tent, they probably slipped in. They're not in boots.
They're probably slipping and the snow is frozen.
To run.
Through trees, through brush.
Even the frozen ground is going to cut them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's what I mean, that the ice and stuff. So they have all these injuries, but it makes sense, like you said. The burns on them are going to make sense because if they're getting close to the fire,
they're trying to get as close as they possibly
and almost
especially his fingers were black.
Desperation to get warm.
Right.
Despite visual injuries, investigators concluded that all the hikers had succumbed to hypothermia. However, there are still 4 missing that they could not find. Prosecutor Lev Ivanov. So I have to pronounce it out like I'm a 2-year-old to get these right. And I'm probably not saying it right. Ivanov takes charge of the investigation, and the big question remains that why are the experienced winter weather expeditionists go into this cold conditions without adequate clothing? What compelled them to cut themselves out of the tent and leave so abruptly, and where are the other 4? So that's where we're at, in this investigation. What the fuck happened?
Right.
And where are the other people? Why are they're all separated? We cannot find them. They gathered up the evidence, and it's transported to the police station, and the local police station, all the stuff they found in the tent, and then the bodies that they had found. The harsh weather conditions and the depth of the snow made it almost impossible to find the remaining 4 skiers. And it was not until May, so end of February, they found the first 5, and then the other 4 were found in May by a manzy hunter who stumbled across a man-made snow den approximately 250 feet from where the first 2 bodies were discovered. So not far away, but they were completely buried. But the guy noticed that it was something was man-made there. So he was like, what is this? And he realized that someone made a snow den and knew they were looking for these people. So he contacted the police. A search team arrives, and they have avalanche probes to be able to find, I don't even know what avalanche probes do, but
it's probably like a
pokey
hole without the thing on the end.
A pokey.
So they can shove it through the snow.
Yeah, a pokey thing.
Yeah.
And when they do that, they pull up a piece of human flesh. So they're like, okay, we found something. They excavate the area. It reveals 4 missing skiers lying close to each other in a rocky stream bed. Now, it doesn't really say what the one has wrong, because I didn't find I found information on 3 of them, the injuries per se. This just adds more to the mystery. So, Tybalt Rignolis suffers from severe fractured skull, and bone fragments were driven into the brain. Zolotarov, oh shit, I can't say these names. Zolotaryov, which is the one that was added last.
Yeah,
the 37-year-old
guy.
And the Dubinina, who was the female, the youngest female, had crushed chests, multiple broken ribs, and Dubinina's had a massive hemorrhaging in her heart that resembled both the injuries of those 2 specifically, Z and D, we'll say, were what you'd see in a massive car crash. They were extreme crushed injuries.
Blunt force trauma.
Blunt force, more than what humans could do to one another. And one of the big questions was, did a human, did they kill each other? Was something bad happening? What caused this? One of them go crazy. They're trying to rule out foul play here. And seeing those injuries, they're like, oh, a human didn't, it wasn't hand-to-hand combat that did this. Something crushed these people. And when they looked at the pictures, they developed pictures of the cameras and read the journals. The pictures were jovial. They were having fun. The journals were talking fondly of one another. They were having a good time. They weren't people that were not getting along. Was one of the things they were trying to figure out. Did one of them lose it? Out here in the mountains? But it didn't appear like that would have been a thing that happened. The worst part of this is Z and D. So Zola Taryov and Dubinina were missing their eyes. She, Dubinina, lost her tongue, part of her lip, facial tissue, and even a fragment of her bone in her skull. There weren't any wounds to show on the outside of the body. There wasn't anything to answer for why they had the crushed bones and why their eyes were missing and what.
A bird could have plucked out their eyes.
They were buried under snow.
Right. But then were they buried instantly and died under the snow, or were they
that was the question.
died and then get covered with snow?
That's the question.
But if a bird plucked their eyes out, you'd think they'd have scratches and peck marks, not just in their eyes. It would have been
right. Peck marks on their face.
Right.
Their injuries were done post-mortem. So they must, if the snow could have crushed them, right? Like, that's depending on how much snow.
I didn't realize that the crushing injuries happened after they died.
No, pre-mortem. Post is after.
Post is after.
Pre-mortem.
But it happened before. Is that
well, wait, them? No. Because they ruled this as hyperthermia. All of them killed them. So it must... But again, this is Russia. Who knows? Because at the time...
It's 1959.
They don't have forensics evidence. Like, they don't know exactly what caused it. They are frozen. There's signs of hypothermia. There's signs of frostbite. There's signs of all these things. And like I said, there's so much information on this and so many people involved and so many theories on it. Like, my brain is like spinning, like trying to make sure I'm keeping this straight. Right. It's like, my brain is so like full of information. I'm like, wait, no. But they weren't able, like, they're assuming that at first that this is what caused their death. But there weren't bruising to show that was, you know what I mean? On the outside of the body, that they'd have these crushed injuries inside, I guess, is where their questioning was, like, when did this happen? So I'm thinking if it was after death, it wouldn't have...
at time of death, there probably wouldn't be much.
Right, because it would be beforehand. And how could you survive that kind of injury and move? Right? Like, how could you move after you were crushed like that? If it was like a force of a vehicle crashing. It's so confusing.
And the fact that they were basically... As soon as they're dead, they're going to freeze pretty quickly. So it's like the normal processes that happen after you die didn't necessarily happen because it's so cold.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Almost preserving you like a mummy.
Right. So it's like normal people, if they would die and then they got crushed.
Decomposed.
Seepage and stuff, but there might not be that because they froze.
Right. So things may have not pooled like they normally would. That's why their coloring, we'll talk about their coloring is way off. It becomes apparent, piecing together the things that happen, like reading the journals, finding the bodies, the state of the bodies, the state of undress of the bodies. They kind of piece together that the skiers likely died at different times, and some utilized clothing belonging to others that had passed away. So there is some clothing. Dubinina's foot is covered with a section of Creve Georgie's wool pants.
And he died at the farm at the fire naked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but did she grab his pants out of his tent before she ran? Or did she grab him off of his body after he died?
Right. We don't know.
One of those you don't know.
Or did he cut his pants up and burn them and she took a piece of it during the process? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know. Z,
37-year-old.
The 37-year-old is discovered wearing Dee's fur coat and hat, implying that he may have taken them from her after she had passed. Or he grabbed them when he ran out of the tent and said, "Screw you, lady." Both Kolevtov and D exhibited signs of radioactivity on their clothing. So two of the people found, both of them were in the stream bed, were found with radioactive clothing, which is noted in the evidence. So, and it was noted also that if they were in a stream bed for that amount of time, from February to May, with underwater stream bed that was running, they probably had higher levels of radioactivity on their clothing, and it had been washed away because it had been sitting in the stream bed. So they were kind of assuming that there must have been even more radioactivity on this clothes.
What was the stream bed when it was frozen? It wouldn't have been running.
I don't know. It's so confusing because that's what she said. One of the theorists said that, you know, if they're in a running stream bed, then especially in May when things are thawing, they were running in water, then it could have washed some of the radioactivity off which I don't even know. Can that happen? Can you wash radioactivity off things?
I guess go decontamination.
That's true. Yeah.
Spray it down.
It's true. On May 28th. So this is basically what? How many months? March, April, May. 3 months after the discovery of the bodies. Lead investigator, Ivanov brings an investigation to close. His job only was to rule out foul play. He wasn't supposed to find out what happened. Just had to say it wasn't a homicide. So he says that it's not a homicide. He didn't have to find the reason for it. He just had to prove that it wasn't a homicide. His verdict was it's not a homicide. Instead, an insurmountable force beyond their control led the skiers to death. So, like a force of nature, basically, is what it is.
That's a terrible answer.
It is a terrible answer. And the case is sealed shut. The developed photographs, the journals, which are critical pieces of the puzzle, are classified. The surrounding dead mountain becomes off limits for years. Why? Even the hiker's tent ended up getting thrown out because it got too moldy and they didn't want to keep it. So no one had access to any of the information. It's all sealed. All the evidence. Everything. Sealed. Obviously the
very FBI of them.
How very Soviet of them.
Yes.
It's feeling very Soviet out here. Remember that was... What was that? Was in IT Crowd. Remember she's out smoking?
Yeah.
It's getting very Soviet.
Out here.
Because she was wearing that thing around her head and Anyway. Watch the IT Crowd, it's funny.
They had to go up on the roof to smoke.
Yeah.
Like the roof
no, they had to walk outside, and then they had to walk like to this area way far away. They kept on putting them farther away.
Yes, they're out there smoking. It's so funny.
Obviously, with this, like, no answers for the family, they were pissed. They're like, no, this isn't, you cannot close this case. What happened to my relative? Like, why? Can you imagine your kids are... And then they tell you what.
And they're kids. I have a 20-year-old at home.
Yeah.
Like, this is like.
They're our kids' age.
They're our kids' age.
Yeah.
So, like, I can't. If that happened to my kid, I'd be like, no. You're going to trot your ass back out there and figure out
I
what
will go
happened.
out there and find out what happened. Like, I couldn't even
You'd
imagine.
Get shot. Because it's
they would.
Russia.
Yeah. So, they want answers. They write to the authorities insisting on knowing what the fate of their loved one, like, what happened to them. We want answers. So, it's Soviet Russia. They didn't care what they had to say. The location where they discovered them has become known as Dyatlov's Pass, and the incident itself is the Dyatlov Pass incident. I really practiced saying his name because I wanted to make sure I said that. Dyatlov. Which I'm probably still not saying it right. The state in which the hikers were found has led to numerous theories seeking to explain what happened that day. Like, what caused these deaths. So we're going to dive into the tons of theories and that have tried to unravel the puzzle. We could do a two-parter on this because what are we at right now?
A two-parter?
52 minutes.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a two-parter and do theories in the next episode?
Sure.
Okay. So we are going to make this because this is an hour already. And I probably have an hour more of notes.
Wow.
Of theories. And if I don't, it's close to 45 minutes. So I think that we should do a two-parter.
We should.
It's only the second one we've ever done.
I know.
I'm so proud of myself.
Yes, I was too, because I did the Franklin expedition.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of that was, I had a really good book that I was reading off of, and that helps a lot.
Yeah.
If you have a lot of really good information.
Yeah, when you can find a lot of information.
Right.
And the fact that there's so many theories behind this really extends the story, because
right.
Yeah, it's the theories. There's bizarre theories. Okay, part 2 will be next week. Yes. Hold on to your pants. And I want you to think of things that you before we talk about theories. Before we go on to the next thing, I want you to think about what you think could have happened to those people. What is your theory without knowing other people's? Like, think about it now. If you haven't heard this story, think about it now. And I want you to email us or something or message us.
I think it's aliens.
You think it's aliens? I'm not going to tell you what I think because I
think a lot of things. There's a lot of things that make sense.
I've been in it for a while now. For a few weeks. I don't want to say what
the KGB.
I don't want to say what I think it is.
Or aliens.
So.
Aliens scooping out eyeballs.
Yeah. And, you know, I also have information based off of the True Detective I'm watching. A theory of it, too, that's not anything to do with the theory. Any of the theories in this, which I'm going to talk about if you want to spoil. I'll tell you when there's spoilers coming for the episode if people don't want to hear about it. But that one's interesting, too. And it ties in a lot to do with the Native Americans and how the Native American women disappear and are not found. And it's horrible and awful and makes me want to cry just thinking about how terrible it is. But anyway.
Do you watch Hillary Swank TV show. What was it? The newspaper one?
No.
It's so good. You need to watch it.
Is it on, is like a recent
It
show?
was
Or?
on one of the networks.
Okay.
I watched it, The Daily.
Okay.
I don't remember, but I watched it last season. So freaking good. So, I mean, it wasn't on because of the strike. Nothing was on, really. But hopefully it's not discontinued, because the show was amazing. And I loved it. And it's like, she's in Alaska. She's like a...
This is based in Alaska, too.
She's like, I think, a New York... She's like a reporter for a big-time newspaper, and then she kind of goes against some bigwig guy.
Oh.
And then they basically fire her, and she ends up in Alaska.
I have to watch it.
It's some tiny
little town.
It's about an indigenous woman who goes
missing
and gets found dead. It's about
Terrible.
her digging into that.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
But yeah, it's really, really good. You should.
I bet it's
good.
I would love it.
Like, I was like riveted to it. Like, I had to watch. I couldn't wait for it to.
And you know, speaking of,
and I like that indigenous actors.
Yes, playing.
Yes,
indigenous
which is
people.
good. I'm like, good.
And I know, like, 1949, the show 1949, which is a prequel to Yellowstone TV show, is the best in that series of things, because it really looks at the treatment of Native Americans during that time period in our country, and how horrible the Catholic Church treated, raped, beat, stole their culture, beat their culture out of them, cut their hair, did all these. It really shows the horrible treatment of, and I think that it's so important for people to realize, because it's not told in school.
Oh no,
it's that history has been hidden. A
history
of the treatment of
the last 100 years.
African American people and alone has been hidden, and the indigenous people. It's just watch that specific series, 1949. Really, I mean, it's like makes you sick to your stomach, some of it, because it's so horrible. The things that they've done to them, but people need to know.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad. Anyway, not to be a downer, but we did just talk about a bunch of people dying too. So anyway, if you have
already down there,
I'll be posting pictures on Facebook and Instagram, so you want to make sure you follow us on there, because we always post pictures of our episodes on there, so you can put pictures to what we're talking about. And if you have theories, what can they do? If they have theories about what happened to this expedition,
post them.
Yeah, but what else can they do?
They can also send us an email.
My segues just off me.
At thecousinsweird@gmail.com. Or you can send us a direct message through Facebook or Instagram, or simply comment on any of our Facebook or Instagram posts, because we love it when you comment.
Yeah, comment and let us know what you think happened. Or if you want to support our podcast, the best way to support us is always through word of mouth. Tell your friends about us. We just like sharing our bizarre history and weird stuff with other people. And if you like it, your friends are probably weird like you.
Yeah.
I want to hear it too. Oh gosh, we haven't done this in so long. I'm so bad at this ending.
Too. Like, okay.
We used to spit it right out.
Instantly. Like, if you'd like to support us monetarily, join our Patreon. And Colin's going to have to tell you the breakdown because I don't remember.
It's patreon.com/thecousinsweird. For $1 a month, you become a freaky friend and you get a free sticker and bonus content. And for $5 a month, you become a terrible trender and you get bonus content, free sticker, yearly gift, and a Skype when we can do it. Because I cannot guarantee with our lives right now. Anthony, we're going to take you out for a drink. Is what we're going to do. Reach out to us,
man. We'll reach out to you too.
Yes. We'll send you a message.
Yes.
When Margaret's out of school, we'll take you out for a drink.
We can do it now.
Okay. Margaret says we can do it now.
We can do it now.
All right. So I think that's it.
All right.
It was a sad, poor ending to this episode. I apologize that our brains are not working correctly.
All righty.
Bye.
Stay freaky.
Bye.